Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We got Harrison tonight. How we doing, bud?
Good, Nick. How you doing?
Not too bad. Sean might join us later. We're not sure. With the holidays coming up, I know it's going to be pretty spotty for us, and it's the off season, so PTO
Right.
kicked back in, so we're fine.
Yeah, well, that's like I say. There's three of us, so when something comes up, one of us has to miss. We still have a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the Pats are on tonight, so kind of expecting a low audience, but you know what? You can just watch us anytime, of course. But
Exactly.
before we get going, just like, follow, subscribe on YouTube. We're on Facebook, obviously, so just follow us there. Tonight is going to be a lot of free agency talk as we get going here. Um, I mean, let's just start off the top. Aaron Judge signed pretty much when we got off the air
I I
last
know,
Tuesday for
and with
9
San Francisco too, right, Nick? Oh
that
no,
was
wait a
right.
second.
Yeah, that was right before we got on. We were like, "Oh, he's going," and then they're like, "No."
uh,
But yeah, Judge signs for 9 and 360, and I have a feeling like this had to happen for the New York Yankees, right?
yep.
I mean, there's just no way around it. They lose Aaron Judge, they probably lose a third of their fan base, right?
That'd be a massive blow to the Yankees. He's really become the face of that franchise. He was a product that they kind of brought up to the minor leagues. He was the future, and then he got there and didn't let him down. And having him walk away, it's kind of like what we feel with Bogarts walking away. There's some pain there, but um, I think if the Yankees, you had to give Judge pretty much anything you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, and 9 for 360, it's $40 million a year. That's still, I mean, decent.
Yeah, I mean you're giving a guy who's 30, almost 31, big body, a lot of money up until about his 40th birthday. I think we've seen with all these deals. Albert Pujols was a great example of that. They're going to get 5 great seasons out of him. They're going to get 5 really good Aaron Judge seasons, then a couple of okay seasons, and probably 3 seasons at the back end where he's a glorified DH that throws in some home runs here and there. But these deals never work out in the second half of them for whatever reason. They just never do. Whether it's got to be age and all those things that come into play, but they're going to get for the next 5 years they're going to get prime Aaron Judge to build around. So their window is still open. They got to put some stuff around him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the signing's smart. I mean, 9 years, like you said, he's 31. It's going to 40. Like, sure, they can always cut his contract short or pay him out at the back end if he's,
Yep.
38 and he's hitting a buck 70. But I mean, like you said, he can DH from 35 on and he's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now you're going to get a Gold Glove center fielder. You're going to get. I mean, the Yankees fans are calling for him to be the captain.
Yeah, which says a lot about how the fan base views him.
Yeah, but I mean, they boo him in the playoffs. So like, I don't like.
What's- uh, I mean,
Like,
as Red Sox fans, we do the same stuff.
oh, I 1,000% agree. But we're not in the clear at all.
No,
I
say
totally
we are not.
understand.
Our
But
hands are not clean here, but
it is crazy how touchy the Yankees fans were
yeah,
about the whole thing. Like to him, San Francisco and that false reports, and then
yeah,
coming back, and then the Red Sox lose Xander like the next day, and the Yankees fans are all over us. Like, I get it, but both organizations, I think, are in shambles. Like, they
oh,
don't know.
100%.
Like, the Red Sox, I kind of came to terms today that if the Red Sox, we'll jump to Xander Bogaerts here. So Xander signs with the Padres, 11 years, 280. We'll get to the absurdity of that contract in a second.
Good.
Um, But if this offseason by the Red Sox isn't to set up a Brinks truck backing up for Rafael Devers, then
Yeah.
there's going to be fans outside of Fenway with pitchforks and torches, like ready to burn that place down because this offseason, like Bloom came out today saying, yeah, we're going to compete this year. Okay, you say that every year, but you're not putting the team in a position to win right now. Like,
No.
you haven't addressed the starting pitcher. Yes, you shored up the bullpen a little bit, but we don't know what we're getting with Chris Martin. Like, he's coming off a couple of okay seasons. He was a decent reliever back in the day, a couple of years ago. I mean, you got Jansen to close out game, which was our biggest need this year. I mean, we made
Huge.
a lot of saves, but if not signing Xander gets you to sign or extend Devers in this offseason, then I think Red Sox fans would settle down and they would understand the process. But we just don't know what's going on. The unknown is killing everybody. And I feel like that's our, the unknown is killing Red Sox fans right now.
Well, and I feel like, so you look at like what the Giants did with Judge. The Giants came out and basically told the world, hey, we offered him an absurd amount of money.
Right.
They at least told their fan base, hey, look, we tried. Like, we tried wicked hard to get this guy, and he just wasn't coming here.
Right.
And every article you read, it's, so and so, and the list of teams, it's always the same like handful of teams that are in on everybody. And it's teams like the Giants that are in on everybody. The Cubs are in on everybody. The Red Sox name doesn't appear in any of those articles. There's no mention of the Red Sox. There's talk about the fact that, it'd be cool to have a Christian Vasquez reunion. He just signed with the Twins. Apparently, the Red Sox never even had any discussions with his reps. So, like, the Red Sox aren't in on anybody. They're really not in on anybody. And apparently on Xander, they really weren't in either. He basically got the offer from San Diego, took it. There was no call to Boston going, hey, I got this. You're going to match it. It was like, I'm done. I'm out. See ya.
Yeah. Let's get to the absurdity of that contract right now. 11 years for a 30-year-old shortstop.
I guess so to preface it, I think Xander Bogaerts is, probably one of the top 20 players in all of baseball. He's spectacular.
Agreed.
Top 2 or 3 shortstop in all of baseball. Spectacular. But if you told me the Red Sox were signing Xander Bogaerts to an 11-year contract for $280 million, I would have laughed out loud and said that's the worst decision they could make. Mm-hmm. Now, San Diego's doing it because they lost on Judge. They offered Judge 10 years, $400 million, and he turned them down.
Yeah.
And took the Yankees offer, which apparently, and not to go off on a rant here on Judge, but Judge had an offer of 8 years, $320 from the Yankees, 10 years, $400 from the Padres. And what it took was Hal Steinbrenner basically called Aaron Judge directly and said, Aaron, what's it going to take to keep you here? Aaron goes, I need the 9th year. Hal goes, done. And the contract was negotiated. Literally, the conversation lasted about 5 minutes. Yeah. And he basically kept Aaron Judge from leaving.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Brian Cashman wasn't on that call. Aaron Boone wasn't on that call. It just shows the fact that he was so important that the owner negotiated the deal directly with Aaron Judge to keep him.
Right.
And the Padres, they lost on Trey Turner. They lost on Judge. They were not going to lose on Bogart. So the offer they made is insane. He's going to be 41 when this contract ends. He'll be a shortstop for maybe 3 or 4 more years, and then physically he's going to move somewhere else. And they're going to be overpaying him for probably 2/3 of this contract. But the Padres needed somebody, and he was basically the 3rd guy on their list, and they were not going to lose him.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but like, I don't get it. 11 years. He's going to be 41. Is Xander Bogaerts going to be hitting 300 at 41 years old?
No. I mean, you're going to get 4 or 5 more years out of Xander, and then he's going to be a third baseman, maybe even a first baseman, maybe even a left fielder. He's pretty athletic. Yeah. But I mean, you saw it this year. The guy, 315 and 70 or whatever he had. I mean, a decline for him. There's going to be no power, and it's going to. And once his power can't decline a ton. He's not a big home run hitter. But when the average declines and the speed declines, you're not going to be left with much.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not an elite defender. Is he solid? Yes. He's not elite.
This season was the first season of his career he's had a positive defensive runs saved metric. Yeah. He's always been an okay defender. And this year he was better than he's ever been, and he was still, he was probably top, what was he? He was in the Gold Glove consideration, so top 6. But prior to that, he was always a middle of the pack defender.
Yeah. I mean, 11 years is, I don't, like you said, I don't blame the Red Sox for not taking that deal. The Red Sox short-term plan right now is Story is going to fill that shortstop gap for the 4 or 5 years left on his contract. Marcelo Mayer will be major league ready for that spot in 4 or 5 years. So Story's gone. Mayer moves up. And now we're just looking for a second baseman. Do we have Christian Arroyo? Yes, we have Christian Arroyo. They'll probably plug him in there.
Well, and you got Kike Hernandez, who was a second baseman at the start of his career.
Right, but I would rather keep him in center.
Agreed.
You have Yoshida that you just spent a boatload of money on to get him on the team.
Which we'll come back to him in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a sec. Then you'll slide Verdugo over to right, and you'll have Kike in center.
Yep.
Which Casas at first. You'll have McGuire behind the plate.
That's a pretty good outfield. I mean, those are three guys that can cover some ground and could play some good defense. Now the question is how much offense you're going to get out of them. But defensively, that's a solid outfield. In the infield, I think you're going to have a pretty solid defensive infield. Again, question marks on what you're going to get in terms of hitting. McGuire is considered to be an elite level defender, and we did see some of his bat in September. He definitely seemed to, he came up with some hits for them. Because that's always been the knock on him. He's not a great bat, but he's a great glove. And the Red Sox really valued him at the trade deadline last year. So it's going to be a team that's going to catch the ball pretty well. They're going to pitch the ball okay, and are they going to hit? I have no idea.
But they're not deep. They are Kike Hernandez season away from having a crappy outfield.
Oh yeah, they're one injury or one cold streak away from being in real trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just not very deep. You didn't address the glaring need, which was starting pitching. You haven't done that yet.
You don't have a DH.
Don't have a DH. And you still okay, so we'll get to the signings they did. Chris Martin and then Kenley Jansen for 2 years. The Red Sox did blow what? 16, 17 saves this year, and they
every other game it felt like
they blew a lot, especially early. So that's
anytime they were in a close 1-run game, you knew they were going to lose. You just knew it.
Mm-hmm. So that will help the back end.
But Kenley Jansen, that's a 35-year-old closer
that
has a history of some interesting arm stuff. Who was very good the last couple of years. Don't get me wrong. But you got a 35-year-old closer for 2 years, and the same cast of characters around him. I mean, how many games is he going to come into with a chance to save it, where the guys in the bullpen haven't already thrown gasoline on it?
So this is my I don't know if fear is the right word or what, but what the heck they're going to do with Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock? Are they going to try to stretch them out and put them in the rotation? Are they going to keep them in the bullpen? We don't know where those two are going to go. I believe if you're going to stretch out one of the two, it's going to be Tanner Houck, right?
I mean, it makes the most sense. He's the guy that has shown the ability to stretch out like that for periods of time. But again, it's going to be one of those situations where you're going to have to look at what you have, what the team's going to need. You may need to stretch both those guys out, depending on what you actually have for viable arms. Because right now, that rotation is you've got maybe a partial rotation. You don't even have a full rotation in place right now, and you got Chris Sale at the head of that. And who knows what you're going to get out of him?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. They're I don't even know what to say about them, honestly. I'm completely lost. But all I know is, like I said earlier, is they better be backing up the truck for Devers. And that's why they're kind of quiet right now and making these small deals, other than this Yoshida deal. So they have the cash to sign Devers. But if they don't sign Devers in the offseason, I don't think he's coming back either. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, and if I'm the Red Sox, I mean, if I think 11 years, 280, got Bogaerts to sit down, I'd be going to Devers with something similar. Because, again, like with Bogaerts, you're paying him shortstop money for a guy who's not going to be a shortstop long term. That hurts a little bit, but you can get over that. Devers, third base, does not command as high a salary as shortstop generally. He's not a great defensive third baseman. He's likely going to be a first baseman, not too far down the road. So you're paying him like a first baseman ideally, which is what's caused the gap they've had. He wants third baseman, shortstop money. They see him as a first baseman, so they don't want to give him what he wants. But this is going to be another big decision for the Red Sox to make. Do you make that investment and keep him, or do you continue to push these homegrown guys away? Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, is Devers next? I don't know.
I mean, you got to keep him, right? He's an elite power bat from the left side. You got to keep him, right?
The guy had no help and missed like almost 20% of the season and still finished in the top 10 in the MVP voting.
Yeah. You have to find a way to keep him, I think. It
makes sense that he would be the core guy you build around. I get not wanting to do it with Xander because he's turning 31 and you didn't want to make that kind of investment in a aging shortstop. I get it. But you can't do that with Devers unless you really don't want him. And
right.
The one thing I will say, and as much as I think everybody thinks Chaim Bloom is smoking something, he inherited a really shitty roster when he got here that he's turning over. I don't envy the job he has to do, which is he had to turn a lot of players over. I do question some of the decisions that were made, but this guy's track record of finding and identifying talent is one of the best in baseball. And there has to be something more to this plan than continuing to be mediocre. There has to be more here.
I agree 1,000%.
I just wish we knew.
Right. It's just frustrating as hell because we don't know.
Like watching what he's doing, you're like, what the hell is he doing? There's got to be a bigger plan in place, but there's days I see what he does and I just go, I don't get it.
I think people get caught up in like watching all these big free agents sign, and none of them are with the Red Sox. Listen, the last time the Red Sox went out and spent, both of them were absolute duds, Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just big spending for the Red Sox.
Pablo
Sandoval. I mean,
the Josh Beckett second contract, the Chris Sale contract. I mean,
just never worked out for them.
No, the Red Sox have never had good luck signing those big long-term deals. They just never work out.
Okay, speaking of big deals, let's get to it. Masataka Yoshida, 5 years, $105.4 million, and what was it? $15 million for the posting fee.
Yeah, so it's 5 years, $90 million, and it's $15.4 million posting fee. So total cost of $105.4.
So they're saying this guy is an on-base machine.
Yes.
But they also say that the pitching in Japan is like AA baseball here.
Correct.
So what do we expect? Do we expect 15 and 75, maybe hits 280?
Yeah. So from what I've read, it's 100%. They equate the Japanese pitching in the league he's in to about AA baseball. So, okay. So you got a guy hitting 3-something with crazy OBP and no strikeouts against AA pitching. He comes over here, probably 275, 285. Maybe he gives you 10 home runs and strikes out 80 to 100 times. Not the 40 times he did in the whole season. But he's got speed. He's got a good eye. He's got great bat control. They kind of say almost like an Ichiro type. He can almost place the ball. He could even if you reduce his stats, he may still be the best leadoff hitter the Red Sox have had in a long, long time. However,
they say he's got elite contact.
Yeah, like silly. I mean, like almost can place the ball, like Ichiro could find the hole and drop the ball in it. Everything I've read, every other executive that was asked about this guy, every other team that talked about him said the Red Sox way overpaid. They had his value more in the $40 to $50 million range over a 5-year deal. And they think he's a bad fit for Fenway because he tends to be a pull hitter, and right field is going to zap his power. So all indications are across the league, they think the Red Sox made a mistake by giving him the money he did and putting him in that ballpark. Time will tell, but you don't need this guy to go hit 20 home runs for you. If he's going to get on base at a pretty healthy clip, that's what was missing all last year. How many solo home runs did Rafael Devers hit? How many doubles with nobody on did he and Bogaerts hit? 70. I mean, having somebody on base is so key.
Yeah, I agree.
And good defensively.
Yeah, having him on in front of Devers this year will literally double Devers' RBI total.
I swear to God, every 3/4 of his home runs this year were solo shots.
Yeah, they were Mike Trout numbers: 40 home runs and less than 90 RBIs. That was Rafael Devers last year.
Yeah, nobody on base.
No. All right, we'll get off the Red Sox wagon for a little bit, but the Cardinals signed Wilson Contreras. I mean, Contreras was like Yachty was Contreras's idol growing up, and he's just gonna slide right into that Cardinals lineup and be completely fine.
Yeah, actually, I think he's
signing.
a really good fit for that team.
Yep, absolutely.
And a great guy. Like he's gonna fit in great with that in that city, in that clubhouse.
Yeah.
You know, he has huge respect for Wilson Contreras. Has wanted to be a Cardinal. I think that's a no-brainer deal for them.
Yeah. Sorry about that one, Morgan. The Cubs goes from the Cubs to the rivals.
Yeah. But... Well, and even Yadi Molina came out and like endorsed it. You know, if anybody's going to take my spot, I like the fact that it's him.
Yeah, 1,000%. We'll get to the Mets right now. So the Mets re-signed Brandon Nimmo, which I thought was kind of big because all the rumors were saying he was going to the other New York team. But the Mets signed him for $8 and $162, so a little over $20 million a year, or 19 and a half, however that math works out. And then after that signing, the Mets set the highest payroll record ever, and I think it was at like $330 million a year or something like that.
It's insanity.
And then they just signed Kodai Senga, so for $5 and $75.
And reports are they're not done.
Yeah, crazy.
Cohen has basically said, "I'm not going to stop spending until we win."
Yep. Wainwright asking if he and Contreras had 345 starts together. Molina said no chance.
But yeah, Wainwright, holy cow. Right. Wainwright will be 75 still out there pitching.
It's still that same 12-6 curveball.
That curveball, that curveball is still causing nightmares for so many hitters.
Yep. Speaking of curveballs, I saw like a Barry Zito montage the other day, and I was like, God dang, man, that curveball was filthy.
Zito's curveball was ridiculous. That thing broke like 92 feet.
Yeah. But, I mean, the Mets, their starting rotation is pretty ridiculous now. You got Verlander, Scherzer, Senga, Carrasco, and I'm missing one. Who is it? I don't know who the fifth one was, but I saw it the other day.
Quintana.
Oh yeah, Jose Quintana.
Quintana. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank here.
Completely forgot he signed there too. So
yeah, they've got an insane amount of options. Right. So the Mets rotation options as it stands right now are Verlander, Scherzer, Senga, Quintana, Carrasco, McGill, Peterson, Hernandez, Lucchesi. They've got 9 potential starters for 5 spots on their roster today.
Yeah, that's
and they're not done.
No.
And I'm trying to find the number, but with all the contracts that Cohen has given out in the last few weeks, it's an insane amount of money that's been committed, and it works out to be like 1% of his net worth.
The Mets 2023 payroll has already gotten to a record $345 million, plus the additional $76.2 million in luxury tax.
Yeah, it's
so I knew it was up there, but I didn't realize it was.
And the thing is, they changed the rules to make that so much more punitive, and Cohen basically said, "I don't care.
No,
I don't care. Who do I write the check out to?"
Dude, Scherzer and Verlander are both making the same thing, $43 million a year, and they're a combined age of 78.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Well, and what's amazing is that, so when you look at them when they were teammates, I mean, these guys had a combined 3.37 ERA. They won 2 Cy Youngs, 2,165 Ks. They won 170 games. Like they are together. They were ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that Mets team is going to keep getting better.
Yeah, and I think honestly, this is probably talent-wise, no, but I think longevity-wise or bulldog mentality-wise, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, is Verlander and Scherzer might be a better 1-2 than DeGrom and Scherzer were. Talent-wise, no, but I feel like Verlander and Scherzer are going to be there longer throughout the season. You're going to have more sustained 1-2 punches with both of them than, DeGrom missing half the season.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, I think losing DeGrom and replacing him with Verlander is actually a big improvement to that team because you just can't count on DeGrom to be there, but you can with Verlander. So here's a stat: Cohen has spent $400 million on contracts this offseason, which is slightly more than 2% of his net worth. And basically, and that's basically his comment to the Mets media was, "And we're not done yet."
2% of his net worth, dude. $400 million is silly.
Yeah, and he'd really like to keep the payroll, around 300 million, but basis says you can't put a price on a World Series. So, I mean, the guy is.
You still got to go out and perform and win, though.
You do. I mean, the players still got to go get it done, and everybody. It looked like this team was going to have it, and then they just kind of fell apart in the end.
Yeah.
And again, they're going to run out there with a starting rotation where I want to say at least 4 of the guys are going to be 35 or older. Like, these are experienced veterans, but you can't push them.
No.
Like some of the kids.
Yep. Sean Manaea signs a 2-year deal with the Giants. And
I think that's a good move.
It is a good move. And then also with the Giants, Mitch Haniger goes for 3 years, 43.5 with the Giants. So he gets
that was like a total stealth signing. I didn't even realize he was a free agent.
Right? Yeah, I thought he still had a year or so in Seattle, but
yeah,
guess not.
Yeah, I did not realize he was up.
So I mean, and the rumors are that Carlos Rodon, that's his biggest landing spot possibly right now. I think the Giants are number 1 on the list for Rodon to go back.
Well, and all indications are he liked it there. He didn't opt out because he didn't like it there. He just opted out because he wanted to try to get a longer term contract.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows what the NL West is so funky to me because it's just like you have the Dodgers, you have the Padres duking it out. Like, are the Giants going to have a 110 win team? Are they going to have a 78 win team? Like the last 2 years with them, I have no idea what you're going to get. So it's just interesting to me. Yeah, we're all over the place here. The Blue Jays signed Kevin Kiermaier, and then they just signed Chris Bassett today.
Yeah.
So does Kiermaier move the needle? I mean, you have George Springer. You have maybe to fill Teoscar Hernandez's spot because you lost him. But
I mean, Kiermaier is one of those guys who he was such an important piece of that Rays team. Not because his numbers were never anything that was going to like wow you, but like he could play anywhere. He did everything. He was a great clubhouse guy, a great great on-field guy and the clubhouse guy. I mean, even if he's your 4th outfielder, I think he helps. I think he makes that team better just because he is such a good teammate. All reports are. And that Giants team just seems so like weirdly out of sorts.
Yeah. Giants team.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I still have my mind on the Giants. Sorry, Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Because that Blue Jays team in the playoffs, like they look weirdly out of sorts. They just, I don't know. And I think I think they had to deal with that long COVID annoying season with travel and all that stuff. And, but they didn't seem to have that spark, and they were so hot and cold. And I think a guy like Kiermaier will be good for that clubhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I don't know who else is in their outfield over there. I mean, is JBJ still with the Blue Jays, or did they finally release him?
No, too? I think his contract expired. So you got Springer, you lost Hernandez.
Yep.
You lost who is left in the outfield there?
I am absolutely drawing a blank on their outfielders right now. Goodness gracious. Let's see. Outfielders are
Oh,
Lourdes Gurriel. Goodness
Gustav
gracious.
Gurriel, yeah. I don't know why I could not think of him.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And right now, that's it. That's all you got.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Biggio can play out there a little bit, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah, but you don't have like a major league ready starter.
Outfield. No, absolutely not.
I mean, and Kiermaier is that, but I just don't know if he's an everyday guy.
Yeah. I agree. The Twins signed Christian Vasquez. I know you mentioned it a little bit before, but he's not coming back to Boston. He's going to Minnesota because Gary Sanchez is still out there. So the Twins aren't bringing Gary Sanchez back. It would be my guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, although I still think Gary Sanchez could have value as a DH. He's just not.
He's a defensive liability behind the plate.
He's a defensive mess, and he's never been good defensively.
Never.
He'd be a good DH if all he had to do was hit, but the problem with him is that he's just as likely to hit 150 as he is to hit 300.
Right.
You just never know what you're going to get, but the guy does have power, and he is, he's another, friggin' Joey Gallo of sorts. Like, he will run into some balls and hit him a long, long way. Will he run into enough, though, to justify having him in the lineup?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then the last free agency signing I have before we get to the big trade that just happened, Jameson Taillon leaves the Yankees and goes to the Cubs for 4 years, $68 million.
Yeah.
So the Cubs go big on a starting pitcher. He'll be their number one there, I would assume, right? I mean, you got Stroman still, but would Taillon move into the number one spot? Morgan?
I mean, I
would imagine, right?
I feel like he has to. I mean, there's really, the Cubs have some young arms that I think are good, but they're not ready to be at the top of the rotation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think Taillon's a top of the rotation guy necessarily, but he's the best thing you got.
Right. So, I mean, interesting. I mean, the Cubs have been there all offseason. We have heard their name get, flung around all over the place. Like they want to spend, and no one wants to go to Chicago for whatever reason. I mean,
well, I look at it too, like, Christian Vasquez going to the Twins. I mean, anybody right now going to Chicago knows you won't win for a few years. Like, you just won't.
Right.
That team has got too much work to do to get over the hump. Look at Vasquez going to the Twins. That team's not going to win either. They've got a lot of work to do to get over the hump.
Yeah.
So
here we go. So Morgan says,
there you go.
Should be the number one. Mills might be 2, Stroman 3, Hendricks 4. So
yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, a guy who probably isn't a number one, but is talented and probably is the best guy they got will be the number one. But I have to imagine the Cubs are going to go after number one maybe next offseason and keep trying to build on this. But if you go to the Cubs right now, you're going there to be part of a rebuild. If you're Christian Vasquez going to the Twins, you're going there because hopefully they gave you a really good contract and a big bag of money because you're not going to win there. You may compete, but probably not this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, Swanson and Correa are still out there. Their names have been, floated to Chicago a little bit here and there. So, I mean, they still could make an impact for them. Because and that NL Central, we all know, I mean, other than the Brewers and the Cardinals, everybody else you can just beat up on pretty much. I mean, yes, the Pirates are up and coming, but they're still a few years away. The Reds are the Reds. They're the Reds. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, we'll see. It will be interesting. But yeah. All right, let's get to this big trade that just happened. The Braves get Sean Murphy from Oakland, and then the Braves send Wilson Contreras.
I always get the two of them confused.
To the Milwaukee Brewers. In total, 9 players swapped hands with 5 heading to Oakland. So the A's get can't pronounce any of their names, and I don't know them. Esteury Ruiz, who's an outfielder, Kyle Muller, left-handed pitcher, Freddie Tarnok, Manny Pena. Okay, so Manny Pena was the catcher. Know him. And then Royber Salinas. So you go, Oakland A's. You go. I like. How can you just sit there and
I
like
don't know.
not get major league ready talent for Oakland?
I,
I
I
I
don't know.
just can't.
I,
I
I, I don't.
I'm
I don't
lost.
know. I don't know what they're doing out there. I honestly have no idea why the Oakland Athletics are still in existence. They're clearly not trying to win. They're clearly not trying to be relevant. They're still pissy about their stadium, and maybe part of this is them holding their breath until they get their way. But it's an embarrassment to baseball that this team still exists.
Goodness. So Murphy's not even a rental or anything. He's not eligible for free agency until after the 2025 season.
Oh yeah,
So
he's locked in.
he is wow. Braves are set for a little bit. I mean, offense is okay. It's nothing crazy.
Murphy?
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of your better offensive catchers.
I mean, which isn't
That's a low
saying
bar
much.
though. It's like, again, it's like being the tallest midget.
Yeah. It says right here since 2020, he's amassed a 235, 326, 422 slash line, averaging 14 home runs.
Yeah.
But he's bringing top notch defense. But he's also hitting in a ballpark that you have to hit at a country mile to get it out of.
Oh my goodness, that ballpark is horrendous.
Yeah, Morgan makes a good point. A's got to save money for the new stadium they'll get in 2065.
I mean, honestly, by the time
Vegas.
Nick, we're going to be getting senior citizen discounts on tickets by the time that ballpark is ready.
Dude, it will be the only two in the stands.
That's fine.
Just,
Fine. We've got front row seats and be able to watch a bunch of guys we don't know play baseball.
Oh, it's so good. I just at what point does MLB step in and intervene with the Oakland A's here?
Well,
right? I mean, it's seriously that bad.
If that salary floor had made it into the CBA, it would have solved the problem. But the A's are going to continue to just exist because that's all they have to do.
It's not funny, but I can't get past it. I really can't. It is
no, and what's sad is their games are even getting blacked out locally because there's so few fans in the seats.
Goodness gracious!
I mean, it's embarrassing that team still exists.
Their payroll is so low that it's not. I can't even find it on Google. It's like, God, estimated 2023 payroll 46 million.
Yeah, Aaron Judge makes $40 million a year.
Jesus Christ, that's terrible.
The Oakland Athletics right now only have $4.5 million actually committed. Let that sink in.
So they literally we could go try out for the Oakland A's in the spring.
They have $4.5 million of salary currently committed.
Get out of here with that. That can't be right. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. So the league average payroll is $101 million.
Wow.
And currently,
dude, their longest contract right now is 2 years. Yep. Jace Peterson 2 years, Manny Pena 2 years with a club option, and then Almeida Diaz. Aledman Diaz, sorry, my Espanol is muy mal. Yeah, Tony Kemp, Ramon Laureano, and Paul Blackburn are all 1 year deals, and that's it.
That's it. And those guys aren't making jack.
What a joke.
So currently, right now, the Mets right now have $274 million committed. And that's because some of these contracts haven't been actually fully signed yet. And the Athletics currently have $4.5 million in committed contracts. That's what Aaron Judge makes in the first week of April, basically.
Okay. At the bottom of this Fangraphs page that I am currently on with the Oakland A's, why the heck is the luxury tax explanation at the bottom? Doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Oh, God.
God, that's crazy. Did I freeze?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just whatever. Okay, so
So you
I mean, I
go
didn't.
back to 2022. The A's had a $48 million total payroll. Only payroll lower was the Orioles at 44.
They were lower than the A's.
Yep.
Wow. Crazy, crazy. All right. We do you have any other free agent stuff? I think I pretty much covered most of it. I can't remember. There's probably a couple I missed that weren't really big names, but
No, there weren't. The one thing I will say is on the Red Sox front, the Xander Bogaerts, contract certainly hit Chaim Bloom. The reaction he had with the media was obviously one of concern. But the Red Sox final offer to Bogaerts was like a month ago. It was 8 years, 160, or sorry, 6 years, 160. So they're offering him like $26 million a year, but only for 6 years. So he got 5 more years and another 120 million from the Padres.
I mean, I don't blame Xander for turning that one down either, right? Because who's going to sign a 37-year-old shortstop at that point?
No, I mean that's the thing. Like,
you
he
know
knows
what I mean?
this is going to be his last contract. He knows that, so he's got to get everything he can.
Right. I mean, if you gave him 8 years, that puts him to 38, 39. Then Xander's like, okay, like I can assess my career. Do I retire at Red Sox? Do I, you know what I mean? But when you give him 6, he's like right on that cusp. Like, can I keep playing? Right. Should I retire? You know, I mean, so the Padres just give him 11 instead. But
yeah, well, what the game was insane, and the Red Sox, Chaim Bloom had a press conference this afternoon, and his whole thing was, we don't want to compete in this free agent market because we feel like it's, basically, to paraphrase, it's bananas. They actually are exploring a number of trades and trying to do this through trades. They feel better about trading, minor leaguers and cash considerations than they do trying to go sign some of these bananas contracts.
I mean, they do have a decent farm system right now. I mean, they have pieces, so we'll see what happens. But we're going to move on to the next. So we're still sort of free agent talk here, but we have a few remaining free agents, Swanson and Correa. And we also have Carlos Rodon, like we said. Gary Sanchez is still out there. Morgan actually made a decent point here. He said if the Cubs get Dansby and with their young talent, they will be better than the Brewers. I mean,
could be.
Yeah, the Brewers lose. The Brewers have to rebuild, sort of. I mean, they got rid of Renfroe. Which is their power bat in the middle.
They still got those arms, though. They still got that pitching staff.
They do, but they also went back a little bit this year too. Like they weren't the same knockout guys that they were in, 2021.
No, I mean they started off terribly and they got better as the season went on, but they were not what they were.
I mean, you got Rowdy Tellez for a little bit of power there, and then Christian Yelich. You never know what you're going to get with Christian Yelich anymore.
Right.
The guy either hits 80 home runs in a season or hits 5. And he's hurt.
That's the thing. Like, he's another one of those guys you just can't count on. Like, is he going to be out there enough to make a difference?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Morgan, you're not wrong. I mean, I think that other than the Cardinals, that NL Central could be wide open. I mean, the Cardinals are gonna be there. Like they just always are. So I think the Cubs could make it up there.
The Cubs don't have that far to go to get into contention again, but they definitely there's definitely some holes still to fill.
Yeah. Where do we think Swanson actually ends up going?
I was convinced he was going back to Atlanta, and from what I've been reading, they're not even in communication right now. So it sounds like he's basically been told to, go find a new home. And I'm not convinced that conversation's over, but I look around the league and I think that you've got the Cardinals who still need a shortstop. I thought that was the fit for Bogaerts, although I don't think anybody saw the Padres coming at him like they did. I don't see a guy like Correa fitting in with St. Louis, so I think if they're going to grab a guy, it's going to be Swanson. If not, they're going to find somebody else. I would still love to see the Mariners make an upgrade there. I think if the Angels are serious about continuing to improve, they'd look at a Swanson. But I don't see him going to some of the bigger markets except for maybe the Dodgers. I think he'd be an interesting fit with the Dodgers and a good defense, kind of better than average offensive guy. But I feel like the Dodgers want the splashier signing, so I don't know that he fits the bill. So I still feel like if he doesn't go back to Atlanta, he ends up on the West Coast, either in Seattle or LA.
My heart wants him to go to Seattle.
Yep.
But the reports are saying that Correa is not wanted in LA because of the whole cheating scandal. The fans don't want him. So Swanson could end up there in LA. But honestly, I'd be happy anywhere other than LA. I think the three that I wouldn't mind seeing him. Obviously wouldn't mind seeing him back with the Braves, but I think you're right. I think Cardinals, Mariners, and Cubs. I could see.
Yep.
Those three, and I wouldn't be mad about it.
No, and the Cubs make a lot of sense too.
Yep. Do you know where I think Carlos Correa ends up?
Where?
Bronx.
Huh. He is only going to go to a big market. He's either going to go to obviously LA doesn't want him. He's either going to end up in Chicago with the Cubs, in New York with the Yankees. Boston's not even in on him, and has not even kicked the tires on him. He would not fit in Seattle. And I'm from what I just saw, his camp is asking for mid to high 30 million a season. So I think he ends up with either the Yankees or the Cubs. But I struggle to see the Cubs going that far with a guy like him.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a 95% chance he's with the Yankees.
And I look at that and I look at that combination of him and Judge and Stanton and you're just adding another injury-prone dude to the mix. And it's just the Yankees being the Yankees.
But it gets them to the playoffs, just like every Yankee fan wants.
Awesome. Everybody loves that first-round exit. You know, you got to the dance and then you left early.
Goodness gracious. Who's the other one? Carlos Rodon. Where do we think he ends up?
God, I wish he'd come to Boston, but I don't see that happening.
Nope.
He's been linked of late to the Giants. You know, obviously we mentioned that he wouldn't mind going back. The Yankees are also kicking the tires hard on him. I feel like the Yankees have to go get him because they've done nothing to actually help that rotation, and they need rotation help. Because as you learned last year, you know, Garrett Cole isn't going to win you a big game. Cortez absolutely fell apart second half of the season. You might as well just not have started him at all. They just don't have as much depth as it looked like they had, and they need somebody else to step in there. And Rodon would be a big addition for them.
Yeah, early on, I was really hoping the Mariners are going to make a run at him because I mean the Mariners are close. Like they're a lot closer than a lot of people think.
Oh, so close.
You add another stud arm in that rotation, and they would be disgusting.
Yep.
But I think Giants are 1, Yankees are 2, and hell, I mean maybe the Mets will sign him too. You know, they're signing everybody else, but no, I think it's the Giants or the Yankees. I think you're completely right there. I mean, unless somebody like a St. Louis comes because they lost their left-handed starter, Jose Quintana.
Yep.
You know, the Cardinals could come in. Morgan makes up a great point. Astros are a sleeper team with them losing Verlander.
Yeah, the Astros have been really quiet of late, which is strange because they were they were all over the stuff early on. They've been quiet since.
Yep, that's a fantastic point. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say Giants 1, Yankees 2, though, are definitely the top 2 for me. Where I think Carlos Rodon goes.
Yep, and another team that started off, you know, with some activity and went really quiet since has been the Angels. The Angels looked like they were serious this year about actually building some depth and getting some talent in there. Yeah. And they made a couple of moves and then they've been radio silent since.
And then the early rumors were that they were going to sign Correa because
Right,
they made the move for Gio Urshela, and they said that they were like best of friends, like they
right,
didn't go anywhere without each other.
right. They were setting it up, and then it
Yeah,
went quiet.
but who knows? I
Uh,
mean, they still could come in and make that deal. I mean, there's still plenty of time.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean, I wouldn't rule anything out, but I just find it funny that they were so active early. They've been really quiet since.
I could see if the Carlos Correa camp is as high as you say, there might be teams that don't even sign him. I think Morgan's right. I think the Yankees would be
Yeah.
the only team dumb enough to overpay for Carlos Correa.
And I think that's what
He's
he's looking
not
for.
worth 35 million or above.
No, I mean Trey Turner's getting what 28? Was that 11 over 300 over 11?
Yeah.
Call it 28. I mean, you could argue because Correa's younger, maybe he's worth 30, but even that, I still wouldn't pay him that. He
No.
made the problem is he made 35 million bucks this year, and that contract with the Twins was 3 years at 105. So that was he had a 3-year deal of 35 million per that he opted out of,
Okay.
and I think he wants that back.
Carlos Correa 2022. 291 hitter, 22 home runs, 64 RBIs.
Yep.
And he wants 35 north of 35 million a year.
Yeah, Platinum Glove winner.
Get out of here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You know, is he statistically better than Trey Turner? Maybe a hair. And he's a year younger or 2 years younger. I think he's 28 and Turner's about to turn 30, but still, I don't
Yeah,
see it.
I don't either. And he was off the field for quite a while.
He
You
missed
know, this
25% of
year.
the season last year. He only played like 120 games.
Yeah.
You know, some players like Mike Trout in 120 games hit 40. You know, hit 40 and drive in nearly 100, but apparently Correa can't do that.
Trey Turner hit 298. He had 21 home runs, and he had 100 RBIs.
Yep. And he played in how many games? 150?
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, Correa's not $35 million a year. I'm sorry. Absolutely not.
Correa over 162 games is probably a $32 million a year player. I could see that. But you don't get him 162 games. You just don't.
Well, you don't get anybody 162 games anymore, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, at least close to that. Like,
Right.
you know, Trey Turner is going to give you 150 every single year.
Right.
I don't think Carlos Correa has ever given you that.
No, absolutely.
He's consistently out for 20 to 25% of the season.
Yep. All right, we're gonna switch gears real quick. We have been doing the records bracket. We did have the record bracket final where we had Barry Bonds career home runs against Pete Rose's 4 million career hits, or give or take a few. And actually, really wasn't close. Barry Bonds wins 8-4, so he wins our all-time record bracket. Really, I mean, home runs are the sexiest thing in baseball.
They are.
762 of them are quite damn impressive, and I wouldn't mind having my name attached to it.
No, I mean that's the thing. Like either one of those records would be sweet, and I love the fact that we were looking at 2 records held by guys not in the Hall of Fame, because it just shows how MLB always gets it right.
Yeah, something needs to change there for sure. I mean, that's a whole nother show for a whole nother time, but yeah, I mean,
and let's be honest. Did Barry Bonds cheat? 1,000% yes. But so did like 3/4 of the guys in the Hall of Fame. If it wasn't PEDs, then it was straight up steroids, or it was greenies, or it was cocaine back in the day, or it was
spitballs.
Exactly. It was, I mean, yeah, sandpaper and spitballs and Vaseline. Like these guys, you don't get to the Hall of Fame without doing some stuff and finding an edge. You know, it's like people always talk about Tom Brady. You know, he was always living on the edge. And did he cheat? Did he not cheat? Did he doctor footballs? Did he not doctor footballs? At that level, you are always looking for that slight edge. And these guys, did any one of them ever do it without doing something? Probably not.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing that this generation of voters, or this generation of Hall of Fame candidates, like Clemens, like Bonds is not going to get in because of that.
I mean, and then you turn it around and you have AJ Hinch and Alex Cora still in the game after what they did. There's zero reason for all those guys to still be out. The Hall of Fame's a joke. It's not attached to MLB at all.
Alex Cora and AJ Hinch they outwardly cheated to change the outcome of games, and they got a 1-year suspension and came back.
And they both have jobs currently.
And yet Pete Rose and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens did what everybody else in their era did that MLB was well aware of, and they aren't allowed to come back and be any part of baseball.
Yeah. Morgan makes another great point. He'd argue it's harder to hit the home runs because so many pitchers were on steroids too.
Well, it's like Andy Pettitte. Andy Pettitte came right out. Human growth hormone. I took it all the time. It helped me get on the field, helped me recover from injuries, it helped me train harder. Like everybody was doing it. Was Bonds a juiced up cheater? Absolutely. But so were 90% of the guys in the field he was playing against.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's just,
I mean,
that's what it is.
They were all freaking cheaters. Let's call it what it is and let them in, because it is what it is. And you can't punish an era of baseball for doing things that you knew they were doing that actually weren't technically illegal when it started.
Right. My biggest thing that I can't stand about the entire thing is how Bud Selig is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because he saved baseball during the steroid era, but the guys that legitimately saved baseball, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, the home run chase, and then Barry Bonds after, like Roger Clemens, like none of those guys are in. So you're taking the product steroid guys did and giving all the credit to Bud Selig because he turned the other cheek and was like, oh, I know what they're doing.
Great analogy, because he turned the other cheek to put a needle in it.
Right. but they're saving baseball, so I'm not going to look.
Yeah.
But they put him in the hall just because he's a commissioner? No, it doesn't work.
You celebrate Bud Selig for basically encouraging baseball to do this. Basically, here's Bud Selig. Hey guys, we need to make baseball more exciting. Get more home runs. Oh God, you're doing steroids? I had no idea. Keep it up. We need home runs.
Right. I'm not looking.
Yeah, I see nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that MLB, and keep in mind who was in the front office at that time. Our buddy Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred was in the front office when this all went down.
Yeah.
So he's got the stink all over him too. Again, it's the same band of cronies that have run baseball forever.
Yep.
I think Bud Selig is celebrated that like he saved baseball or something when all he did was just let them cheat, and then come back later and try to punish them for it.
Yeah, it's whatever.
I can't because MLB continues to do what MLB does, and that is completely miss the point.
But is the Hall of Fame even attached to MLB? I think they're two separate things, right? They're not even. I don't think that the Hall of Fame is attached to the MLB at any way, right? It's just Baseball Hall of Fame. I don't think it's necessarily the MLB Hall of Fame, right? It's the Baseball Hall of Fame. So like
it is the Baseball Hall of Fame. It is technically independent, and that's why the writers vote on the players. But it is the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. It is not owned by MLB. But it is heavily influenced and funded and controlled by MLB.
Right. I didn't mean like there wasn't any influence.
No, but you're 100% right. MLB does not own the Hall of Fame, but they
have zero say in who goes in and
correct.
Who
and
doesn't.
that's why all the voting is done by the writers, who are voting based on what they experienced, and of course that opens up a whole nother can of worms with the writers that didn't like guys and whatever. But yeah, no, you're right. The Hall of Fame is technically its own thing, and doesn't have to necessarily honor what MLB wants. However, they tend to honor what MLB wants because they know who butters the bread.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, Bonds wins our overall bracket. Just want to thank Morgan for kind of giving us that idea. That was actually a lot of fun. It was really cool. And I mean, like we said, I think a couple weeks ago, like we could do it again with 16 brand new records. You know what I mean?
There's
Like
so many records.
there's so many records that you could do that with. That'd be pretty interesting. But
And it
just to save you guys, we won't.
Yeah, in full disclosure, we were texting back and forth all the records we could include, and we were like, "Holy cow, there's too many!"
Yes.
Like we've got to whittle this down to
to
something we can handle.
I mean, we did the 64 like all-time player
Oh my
bracket
God.
last March, and it took us like we timed it perfect. I don't know how we did that, but
I don't know.
But yeah, so I'm sure we'll do something like that again. But
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
But it was fun.
It was fun. It was really cool. So thanks to everyone that voted and put their input in. It was greatly appreciated. We'll do some other interactive stuff, especially during the next month and a half or 2 months before spring training starts, which that's right around the corner too. So
yeah,
we'll
110 days I saw the other day. So
thank God. All right, our rounding third question. I have not put it out. I will put it out tonight or tomorrow morning. Who has won free agency so far, Harrison? Back to the free agent talk. Who has won free agency so far?
Who has won free agency so far? Well, I can tell you who hasn't won. And that's the Red Sox. They have not won free agency so far. And it actually, that's a tough one to answer because I think the immediate reaction is the Padres have made big moves. I think some of them are stupid. The Mets have made big moves. I think some of them are still kind of uncertain. I'm going to go with right now, if I'd look at a team that's done the most things to improve itself, I'm looking at the Texas Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Texas has done a really nice job of building off what they did last year, adding to it. DeGrom makes me nervous, but if you get healthy DeGrom, oh my God, does that change the outcome of that team? Yep. I feel like Texas has done a nice job of building depth, but also bringing in some top-notch talent.
Yeah. I think re-signing Martin Perez was huge.
Big.
And then, adding DeGrom. I mean, you have, but, yeah. Just going back to the Bonds and Rose, you're welcome. I'll come up with more ideas when Bonds is the outcome.
Yeah, Morgan, by the way, is such a lapdog to Bonds, by the way.
Yeah, it's fine.
He says, you got your favorite player. I don't hate it.
Right. He says the Phillies have won free agency.
All right. I mean,
Trey Turner's a huge pickup. Don't get me wrong.
Trey Turner's big. And he's certainly an improvement over what you had there. But that team still has question marks around the rotation and the bullpen and the defense. I think Trey Turner helps, but just Trey Turner. Do they win the World Series with Trey Turner? Probably not. But should they have been in the World Series in the first place? Also probably not. So I think the Phillies have done a nice job. The Mets have gone crazy. The Astros have made some big moves. But I look at it as I think a team like Texas has actually gone from outside of the playoff race to at least like back in the hunt. I think the Phillies were already in it and they just improved their position.
Yeah.
But losing Harper for a couple months is going to hurt too.
Yeah, that will hurt a little bit. I'm going to say, honestly, I think the biggest one so far for me is the Yankees re-signing Judge.
I figured you're going to say Seattle.
Who did they sign in free agency?
Well, I guess it depends. Are we including trades or just strictly signings?
I think the Teoscar Hernandez deal was huge for them.
Massive.
And then the trade for Colton Wong definitely helps them.
So yeah, I guess you could say who's most improved during this period. You could argue the Mariners are on that list, but they've not really done it through free agency. That's fair.
No, yeah, absolutely. So free agency wise, I think the Yankees signing Judge. I say it this way because I don't think the signing puts the Yankees over the hump as much as it keeps the Yankees fan base happy. Does that make sense? I don't think signing Judge necessarily puts the Yankees in World Series contention, but it keeps their fan base, it keeps their butts coming back into the seats.
They save the face of the franchise.
Absolutely. I think that's what I was trying to say in a not very efficient way. Um, yeah, I'm such a wordsmith. I can't even help it.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
it.
But you know what I mean? I think that was the most
Yeah.
important signing for me. I think for any team. Yeah, sure. The Phillies needed a shortstop. Yeah, sure. The Padres needed a shortstop. Like, I
Yeah.
totally understand that. But like the Padres and Phillies were much better teams than I think the Yankees were last year in the playoffs. I mean, the
Now,
Yankees almost lost to a bunch of 19-year-olds.
well, yeah.
That's, and you had to bring Aaron Judge back or you lost that franchise. The fans, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of who won the postseason or who won the free agency period in terms of getting better, then yeah, I think it's going to be the Phillies, it's going to be the Rangers, it's going to be. I'm not convinced the Padres have really done anything but make a mess over there. When you look at teams that have, and the Mets have done a lot. When you
Yeah.
look at teams that have made the teams that have done the most to kind of protect the brand or the franchise, and the Yankees keeping Judge was huge. And then I think the Mariners have been most creative in terms of finding talent through other means. The Mariners are not going to go sign guys to 8 years, $200 million contracts, $180 million contracts. They just won't. But through trades, they've gotten a lot better.
Well, they did that with Robinson Cano, and they absolutely got
Oh,
torched.
that was awful.
They got torched.
And Cano fell apart. I think he got fat, dumb, and lazy when he got that big contract and just stopped working.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely got torched with that. So they're kind of like, gun shy now, just kind of like the Red Sox are. The Red Sox, the Mariners are gun shy about pulling the trigger on a big name,
Well, and I think teams like, teams like the Indians, teams like the Brewers, teams like the Cardinals have shown you don't have to spend a gazillion dollars to be competitive and make a run.
Yeah.
These teams like the Dodgers and Yankees that consistently spend insane amounts of money have won just as many world championships as, the Braves and even the Astros. The Astros don't spend nearly as much money as you think they did, given the
Right.
roster they had.
Mhm.
It also helps that Yordan Alvarez, they're getting him for like free. But
yeah, I mean, look at all their guys. They're all homegrown. All their guys are homegrown.
Whatever they feed these guys in AAA is working.
Yeah, crazy. Morgan also says Cubs have made very smart moves, not necessarily big splashes, but they've made some moves to make
I feel
them
like
competitive.
Morgan's really pushing the Cubs here. I feel like he's like loving on the Cubs right now.
He's a huge Cubbies fan, but that's fine. I'll give the Cubs some love.
And the Cubs have done a nice job, but they've still got other things they need to do, and it's going to take time. But
yeah,
they did a good. They were smart by letting guys like Rizzo and Bryant go, kind of tearing it down and then starting back over. And that's, in some ways, I feel like the Red Sox are kind of doing that. Betts was gone, now Bogarts is gone. I literally read something just before he came on where the Red Sox are potentially exploring a trade for Devers. They may just say, look, let's just blow it up, let's tear it to the ground and start it back over. That's painful.
I don't understand why we're playing like the Boston Rays and not the Boston Red Sox. I don't.
Because I think that's the direction the ownership group wants to go. I honestly, if the ownership group is still feeling the pain of the Dave Dombrowski era, which is what the Phillies are going to start to feel here in a couple of years. Dombrowski spent like crazy, won a World Series in 2018, left the farm system completely freaking empty with a bunch of bad contracts. The Red Sox are living through the back end of the Dombrowski era. He's done that everywhere he's gone. He did that in Detroit. He did that in Boston. He's doing it in Philly. He's got all these big contracts that in 3 years are going to look like hell, and he's going to get fired. But they're going to potentially win a World Series in that window, and that's all the organization cares about. This is the Dombrowski hangover everybody's experienced.
Yeah.
And maybe like I go back to, maybe there's a bigger plan here we just don't know. But Chaim Bloom was really, really good in Tampa. And this ownership group has been pulling the purse strings back, and I feel like they don't want to spend the money. They've got all these other things going on, Formula One and friggin' Liverpool, and God bless them. I mean, hell, LeBron James I think now owns part of the Red Sox. I don't know how much this is him versus the ownership group. He has a great track record. There has to be a plan here, but it's painful to consistently watch guys like Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts go away. Well, you still have guys like Chris Sale who can't get on the damn field.
If the Red Sox don't extend Devers or don't sign Devers, they better come out and say exactly why, or
Yes.
you're going to lose a lot. You're going to have a possible Aaron Judge scenario on your hand. Obviously, not to the great extent that Judge is, because I think Judge is a better all-around player than Rafi Devers. However, Rafael Devers is the cornerstone of this franchise as we speak. And
Yeah.
if you just let him walk like Mookie Betts or trade him like Mookie Betts without an explanation to this fan base, it's going to be ugly. And it's going to be very ugly. But
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I think the Mookie Betts, it's funny. Mookie Betts left town in the trade, and you got back Jeter Downs and Verdugo and a couple of the guys who we'll never ever see because they're not worth talking about. Because Betts wanted the massive contract they didn't want to give him, and then he's gone on to continue to play like an MVP level, and that one hurt a little bit. Bogarts leaves on what's kind of a bananas contract, and it doesn't hurt as much because it's like, well, Jesus, there's no way anybody should have paid him that money, so that one doesn't hurt as bad. But like if you have a year or 2 years to figure out Devers, because you had last year too, if you don't do anything and he walks and you get nothing for him, like the ownership group has to be accountable to the fan base at some point to say, hey, look, here's what we're doing, here's why we did that.
yeah.
Betts, I understood. Bogarts, I understand. I don't like it, but I understand it.
At least you got something back for Mookie Betts.
Right,
You don't
Bogarts.
even get a first round draft pick anymore for losing your Type A free agents. You did not trade Xander Bogaerts at the deadline to get your 2 or 3 prospects from the St. Louis Cardinals. Or, I mean, the Cardinals, like I said last week, were like, hey, anybody got a shortstop we can borrow for a couple months? They pretty much were saying that. Yes, everybody the St. Louis for you could probably have hosed them for the Jose. You know, you want them bad enough. We want 3 top prospects.
Yeah,
and the Cardinals would have been like, "Here you go."
Yeah, I mean,
instead he goes for nothing.
Everybody knew he was opting out. The whole world knew he was opting out. So him leaving was no big deal. And the other problem too is I think because he opted out, he doesn't qualify for that first round pick under the old rules because there's no qualifying offer opportunity because it was an opt out. So the Red Sox knew he was going to opt out. They knew they weren't in contention. They decided not to trade him to then let him walk for free. Like that one I struggle with. Him signing for 11 and 280, God bless him. Go get the money. Go get that bag. Because
absolutely. As he deserves it. He's a great player.
Nobody should give you that, but if somebody's going to give that to you, go for it. But it's a sequence of events leading up to that makes you scratch your head. And if they do the same thing with Devers, then I think at that point you've got to fire Chaim Bloom, and the ownership group has to come out and say, here's what we're doing and why we did it.
Yep.
Right now they just look like a hot mess.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. I got nothing else to say on that other than if they don't sign Devers, like I said, it's gonna be a full scale mutiny, and it
should be.
Yeah, without an explanation. If the ownership or Bloom comes out and says this is why, and don't feed us that crap as like, oh well, we offered him this, we offered him that. Like no, like give us the full reason of why. You know, what's the plan? What is the end game here? You know,
right? I mean, the Hal Steinbrenner cared so much about Aaron Judge staying that he got on the phone with him at the 11th hour to basically give him whatever the hell he wanted to stay.
Yeah,
like that's how important he was to the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, the Red Sox are going to have to pick that player that's that important and do the same thing.
And Devers should be it right now because you already let.
He's all you got left.
Yep.
He's all you freaking got left.
Already let Mookie Betts, who's a perennial MVP, you already let him go, and you should have done that with him. And the news are out that he wanted to stay in Boston, and the Red Sox were like, "No, thanks, we're good."
Like, yeah, because they weren't going to pay him $30 million a year.
I don't.
Which, again, I go back to like the economics of that deal don't make sense.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers don't care, so that works out.
Right.
But
all right. Well. So yeah, we'll move on to heading home where if you guys watched last week, we did the all-time players draft. And I know it was a little confusing for some of you guys that didn't watch because we had posted our teams and we got comments like, oh, your teams have holes everywhere. Okay, Well, this is what happened. It was a draft. So once one of us picked them, they were off the board. Like these aren't our all-time teams that we picked. This was by a draft. So once they were off the board, they couldn't be selected by another team. And there was a little bit of confusion in that. So I posted all the teams and had the viewers and the people in the group vote on them. And we had one vote for Matt's team. We had one vote for Morgan's team. We had 2 votes for Harrison's team, and one of them was actually Brian, who was in the draft with us.
Thank you, Brian.
And then we won't say who's in first, but he got 4 votes. But yeah, I mean, it was a ton of fun to do that, and I mean, it doesn't matter whose team we put up on the field; it would be absolutely ridiculous.
It's those rosters are crazy. Like just you look at how the lineups are set. Like I'm looking at so let's look at like Nick's team for a second. You got Ryan Sandberg, Pete Rose, Ken Griffey, Clemente, McGuire, Ernie Banks, Wade Boggs, Ivan Rodriguez hitting 8th. Like it's you look at I got Joe Morgan hitting 8th. Morgan's got Buster Posey hitting 8th. Brian's got Carlton Fisk hitting 8th. I mean, it's stupid. Any of these teams would probably go win 130 games in Major League Baseball today.
Yeah, it's insane. And I mean, it would have been definitely, I think, a little bit different if we went all 5 starting pitchers. I think it would have been a little crazy, but it was just a lot of fun to do that. It was pretty cool. But yeah, so bragging rights go to moi for now.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's my first and only win for a while, but whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's a good team.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, they all are. It's pretty ridiculous, but
yeah, I'd love to watch any of those lineups rake.
I know. I want to see like those old guys, like not the old footage. Like I would love to be in the stands watching these old guys play. Like it'd just be the best ever. But all right. Before we go, does Dansby Swanson sign before Christmas? Yes or no?
No.
How about Correa?
No.
Rodon?
No.
No. You think I think until Christmas, huh?
I think we're going to see the next couple weeks be a little bit quieter. I think the winter meetings is what fueled everything. All the big moves that were there were had. I think a lot of teams are going to drop back right now and kind of recalibrate with what they have and what they need.
Yep.
And I think those guys are going to hold out until after the first of the year because they don't want to jump at something earlier than they have to.
Yeah.
I think you'll see some other guys go in the meantime, but I think those 3 they're kind of the big 3 that are left.
Yeah.
I think they're going to hang out.
You'll see some of the lesser pieces kind of, the position or the fillers. Yeah, not the main stars.
Yeah, and Correa showed the last time he signed. He's not afraid to wait. Like he's not afraid to sit there and let the time tick down.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Like I hate the idea of these guys that sign like during spring training, Harper, Correa. Like I don't like that, but
yeah,
I get why they do it because they're trying to create that sense of urgency where like we got a hole, he's out there, we got to have him. Maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. Morgan says Correa won't sign till after pitchers and catchers report. Yeah.
I think Correa is going to be one of the last guys to sign. He's going to hold out to the very end because he wants what he wants, and he's going to wait to see if somebody gives it to him, and he's not going to settle until like the season's going to start.
I just don't see him getting $35 million on the open market.
I don't know who would give it to him.
Like we said, the Yankees are probably the top choice for that.
You don't have a $30 million shortstop in this free agent class. You don't. I don't know why he thinks he's going to change that.
Right. And Trey Turner, we all said, was undeniably number 1, and he's not even $30 million, right?
No, he's 11 over 300, or 300 over 11 years.
Yeah. So
whatever. He's what is that? 300 by 11. He's 27 million bucks a year.
27, yeah.
And Xander Bogaerts is
26.
25 and a half.
25 and a half. Yeah.
So
silly.
I don't see him. I don't see him being that much better.
I don't either, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll do some talking here. We'll maybe throw out our next interactive thing here pretty soon. We'll talk about it and throw it out. I know possibly these next couple weeks will be slow. We probably won't be on the Monday after Christmas because we observe the holiday as well. But we'll keep you all updated and just like I said, interact with our posts, and we will see y'all next Monday at 8.
See you next week.